We are just 29 days away from the second season of Star Wars The Mandalorian, so how about a recap? What's up, YouTubers of the world? MegaGeekMixer here to give you guys a recap video on Star Wars Mandalorian Season 1. You guys are always enjoying my recap videos, and it seems to really help all of you guys out there. For some of y'all who can't be able to watch this stuff once it gets close to the season, the new season, so I'm always happy to help you guys out. But having said all that, let's get right into the recap. We are first introduced to Mando, who is on the hunt for his bounty, and it's funny how the way he's introduced, he actually ends up saving the life of his bounty when he's being mugged by a bunch of people in a bar, until Mando shows up and beats all those guys who were bullying him, only for that guy to realize that Mando didn't save him out of his good heart, but because he's after the guy's bounty. Luckily and smart of that guy, he doesn't try to pick a fight with Mando and just surrenders himself. Too bad for him though, because he ends up getting frozen in carbonite. And after being captured, Mando takes him to Navarre along with other bounties that he captures to get his reward. It is there we are introduced to Greef Karga, who is the man responsible for giving out the jobs to his hunters and the guild, because Mando's part of a bounty hunting guild, and they have a code that says they don't ask what people do with the said bounty that they have collected for them. But we also learned that 5 years have passed since the return of the Jedi, and the new Empire the Empire is gone and the new Republic has been formed. I was about to say new Empire, my bad there guys. But either way, knowing all this, Mando wants a bigger job with better money. Knowing that, Karga informs him of a client that has very deep pockets, and knowing that all other hunters out there have tried but failed, he decides to take the job. But no doubt to Mando's surprise, this client was actually a former Imperial who is working with a guy named Dr. Pershing to be able to catch the bounty, mostly alive, at least for the doctor, but the client is okay with it being killed as long as they can provide proof of death. But the down payment is what really catches Mando's attention, as it's Beskar armor, and knowing that Beskar armor was mined and came from Mandalorian, you can tell Mando's happy for that. But not only that, after he is given it, he is informed that the bounty is age 50. But now knowing all that, Mando heads off to a sewer where we find Mandalorians are all over the place in the sewers. And it turns out that's because, just like the Jedi, they were wiped out by the Empire due to an event that is known as the Great Purge. That Great Purge was supposedly wiped out most of the Mandalorians, but it turns out some of them are still out there and in numbers, but they keep it a secret from the public for their survival, and they only go out of the sewers one at a time, not to raise any suspicion. But either way, when Mando's there, he is there to get that Beskar armor that was the down payment to be forged into a new shoulder pad armor. This is where we meet a character called the Armorer, who is responsible for doing that for Mando and other Mandalorians. But as it's being forged, we learned of Mando's past. First, his real name is Din Djarin, and he and his parents were not born of Mandalore or anything to do with Mandalore. However, though, the planet he and his parents were on was attacked by separatists during the Clone Wars, and his parents were murdered by droids, and he would have been murdered too, had it not been for Mandalorians coming to the rescue and bringing them along, and bringing Din Djarin along with him, and was adopted into the Mandalorians. And they call that foundlings. For anyone that they adopt, they call foundlings. That's what the Mandalorians call them. And we also find out that Mandalorian isn't a race, it's a creed of religious belief, such as adopting foundlings who stay with the person they are adopted to until they are of age or reunited with their families. which becomes an important thing later on in the season. But after having his armor finished and learning of his past, he heads on over to the planet where the bounty is, but is attacked by a group of Blurg. But luckily he is saved by an Ugnaught named Quill. Quill, knowing what he's here for, decides to help him so he could bring peace to his land from those mercenaries who have the bounty, but also because he's never met a Mandalorian and wanted to help one. I guess out of respect because of the warrior culture they're known for and stuff. And he does help him by helping him tame a Blurg, which is needed to ride across the land to where the stronghold is. Once made it to the stronghold, Mando finds that an IG-11 droid unit is there as well for the same thing as him. And knowing they both want the same, are after the same thing, makes a deal with the droid to split the reward, which he accepts, and they both end up going through a big gunfire fighting, which they manage to barely win. And after breaking through the stronghold where the bounty is, to their surprise, mostly Mando, it is 50 years old, but it is a child, and not just a child, it is a member of the same species as Yoda. But Mando doesn't know that, or in the fact that the kid has force powers, but he soon learns it later on, because at first the IG unit wants to kill him. Mando doesn't want to kill the child though, so he destroys the IG unit and takes the child with him. As he tries to leave for it on his ship, he finds that it's been stripped of its parts by Jawas, and at first he tries to get them back by force, but unfortunately Mando doesn't succeed, so he goes to Quill for help in negotiating a trade-off to his parts. But since they can't find any negotiations of trade, the Jawas instead have Mando try to capture an egg that belongs to a Mudhorn. And no doubt that Mudhorn would have killed Mando if not for the baby using the Force to temporarily immobilize that Mudhorn and allow Mando to make the killing blow. But luckily for the child, this allowed Mando to grow something of a connection with it, feeling gratitude for the child saving its life. But with him having gotten the egg and his parts back, him and Quill reset up the ship and offers Quill to join his crew. But since Quill declined, he just leaves on good terms with them. But we meet Quill again later on. But either way, after which Mando decides to head back to Navarre, where he returns to the client with the bounty of the child. But like I said, having grown a connection with it, he's curious as to what they want to do with it, even though it's against the guild code. But he still ends up getting his reward of all the Beskar armor, and he uses that to go to the armorer and for her to make new armor plating for him, since his old plating has been damaged by the Mudhorn. It is here that we learn that some of the Mandalorians aren't happy with the fact that he was working for some remnants of the Empire. But the armorer is able to quell the tensions, and after getting his new armor plating, he goes on to get his next job from Karga. Fortunately, though, as he's about to leave, he has a change of heart and decides to go rescue the kid from the client and the doctor. The doctor allows him to take the child, mostly out of fear, and as he's trying to leave, the guild gets a beeper on the bounty being up for the kid again. But not just that, they also want to take out Mando because he betrayed the guild and broke the code. And they no doubt would have gotten both Mando and the child had it not been for the Mandalorian showing up and providing him enough cover to escape to his ship. But not before he shot down Greef Karga, but not kill him, thanks to Greef Karga having Beskar armor hidden under his jacket. But either way, with him being free and able to escape, he knew he had to stay in hiding for some time, so he ends up finding a planet known as Sorgan. It is there that he meets an rebel shock trooper named Cara Dooms, who's from Alderaan. And at first, he and her have a bit of a brief fight because Cara believes he's a bounty hunter here for a price on her head. But after clearing that all up, they are both hired by farmers to fight off a band of raiders, and which they succeed in doing, but not before teaching the farmers how to learn to defend themselves and having to destroy an Imperial walker that the raiders had. And as time goes on, the child is very happy in the village and popular with the kids that Mando decides he's going to leave him there at first. But he has his mind changed when he finds out that hunters know where the kid is and they'll continue to come. So knowing the child is in danger and they're putting the village in danger, they leave the village and continue on the run. During one of it, they're on the runs from hunters. One of the hunters damaged Mando's ship, but luckily he's near a planet that can fix up his shit. Interesting though how that planet ends up being Tatooine. Yes, actually Tatooine, the home of Luke Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker. How quaint, but either way, with his ship damaged and needing a lot of money to cover the repairs, he goes out looking for a job while leaving the kid in the ship. And while he ends up looking for a job, he finds a job in the form of a bounty hunter who hires him to help him find a bounty he's going after. Oh, and by the way, the bounty hunter is named Toro, and the person he's after is Fennec Shand, who is played by legendary Disney actor herself, Ming-Na Wen. Love seeing her always. But either way, at first Mando wasn't going to accept it, but once he learns that Toro wants his help in doing this, and he can have the money, and he just wants to capture Fennec so he can get into the guild, he accepts it. He goes with Toro with a couple of speeder bikes out into the desert. That gives us a real western look to things with these speeder bikes, until they end up finding Fennec, who is expecting them and ambushes them thanks to a sniper rifle she has on her hands. Luckily though, with nightfall coming in, they are able to capture her, but not without one of the speeder bikes being destroyed. That Mando has to find another transporter, and while he's away doing that, Fennec is able to convince Toro to betray Mando when he learns that Mando is a traitor within the guild, and that a very high price of the child that's on the child's head. Knowing this will make him legendary within the guild, he kills Fennec, or supposedly kills Fennec, goes back to the port, and waits for Mando to show up to try to get him captured. But Mando fights him off and kills him, and takes his credits and gets himself covered with the mechanic. And while he has left, we are shown that someone found Fennec's body and was there. And it turns out Fennec is actually still alive, because it's been confirmed that Ming-Na Wen is going to return in Season 2. As for who was that found her, no one knows, but I would suspect it's the main character antagonist of this season, who we're going to get to here soon. Either way though, with his ship now repaired, he ends up going on to another bounty hunting job, this time with some old associates of his. One of them he had a fling with, a woman named Zion, who is working with him and other associate mercenaries to rescue a prisoner in a New Republic ship. That prisoner is actually Ziying's brother, Quinn, and Quinn has actually worked with Mando before, and Mando had left him behind once. And knowing that, they all decide to get payback on Mando and have him be thrown in the prison himself. Luckily though, Mando escapes and captures each one of them one by one and imprisons them instead, while taking Quill back alone. And when it looks like all is okay, it looks like he's going to be... The bounty hunters actually were about to kill Mando, but unfortunately for them, the New Republic showed up and actually destroyed the bounty hunters' base. But moving straight on, Mando, continuing on his run, eventually gets a call from Greef Karga to come back to Navarro, where he wants to work with Mando to kill the client, who has now reinforced his remnant Imperial soldiers and taken over the town that was in Navarra. And knowing that this will clear his name and clear the child of being hunted, accepts the mission, but not trusting Karga, goes back to Sorgan to recruit Kara, and goes back to the other planet to recruit Quill to take care of the child, as they try to kill the client. But while they're there to get Quill, they learn that he has repaired the IG unit and reprogrammed it into a nurse droid. But Mando doesn't still trust it, but he trusts Quill, and Quill does decide to help just to set the child free of Imperial slavery. while on their way to Navarra. Then we're given a little funny scene of while on their way to Navarra, Mando and Cara are having an arm wrestling contest, but the child mistakes it as Cara trying to hurt Mando and uses the force choke on her. But luckily, Mando is able to clear that up. Either way, though, moving straight on, they eventually rendezvous with Karga with a few other bounty hunters, and they make camp for the night. And it is during the night they are attacked by a bunch of pterodactyl-looking creatures. One of them actually damages Karga pretty bad, that it looked like he was going to die. That's until the child heals him with his force powers, and that ended up being a good thing, because it turns out Karga was actually going to kill them and get the child to the client, but after the child saved his life, he had a change of heart and just actually wants to help the child be free of the client. Knowing that the best way they can try to get to him is by pretending Mando's been captured, they do that, and as they're finally close to him to where they are about to kill him. Unfortunately, though, this is where they find out that it's not the client who's after the child, it's someone else. That someone else being Moff Gideon. Moff Gideon, having gunned down the client along with his Imperial guards, has left Mando, Karga, and Cara at gunpoint to be and under negotiation cooperation to cooperate with him in surrendering the child and being able to make them walk away with their lives. Because it turns out that while the child was with Quill and trying to go back to the ship, Imperial soldiers had catched up with them and killed Quill and had the child, but IG unit ended up showing up in time to save the child and rendezvous back with Mando and the gang, and just in time to start a shootout as they were running out of time to make a choice. And as the gunfight went on, Mando was attacked by Moff Gideon to the point where he got damaged, where it looked like he wasn't going to make it. Luckily, though, the IG-11 unit was able to stay behind and recover him. But to do that, he had to remove his helmet, giving us, the viewers, a chance to see his face for the first time. And after rendezvousing with Cara and Karga, they all escape into a sewers where they hope to find the Mandalorians to help them get away from the Imperials. But to Mando's horror, the Mandalorian, he only finds Mandalorian armor that are all piled up as if they had all died. Luckily, though, the armorer assures them that some may have survived, but she's not so sure, and that she's only there to salvage all that remains of the armor. And it is during that time the armorer meets the child and learns what Mando has done, and not only hunting and saved it, and being saved by it from the Mudhorn. This is where the armorer announces by creed that the child is under his protection and is now a foundling, and he is the father until he can find the child's home and bring it back to its race. He is in charge of him, and this is where he discovers that he is also a Jedi when he told the armorer about the power of the Force. And this is when he is given his insignia of a clan of two, as he is given the insignia of a Mudhorn to show that he and the child are a clan of two. And after getting that and receiving a jetpack, they head on over to the river flow of the sewers, hoping to be free of the Empire. Unfortunately, though, some Imperial soldiers are waiting outside. Knowing that, the IG unit decides to sacrifice his life. And while he has sacrificed his life and took those Imperial soldiers with him, Moff Gideon showed up in his TIE fighter, ready to kill the group. Luckily, though, Mando with his new jetpack was able to take down the TIE fighter and supposedly kill Moff Gideon. And with all the Imperials out of the way and their leaders out of the way, it looks like Navarro is now clear of that. Cara, wanting to make sure, decides to stay and become part of the guild, or at least an enforcer for Greef Kargan. And in the meantime, with all said and gone, Mando's name is cleared in the guild. But since he needs to now focus on finding the child's kind, that being the Jedi, he goes off with the child back to the ship, not before making a grave for Quill and that's when he and the child head on out into space, off to go on the journey to find the Jedi. But while that went down, we also learned that Moff Gideon had also survived, and he not only survived, he is also in possession of the dark saber that belonged to the only Mandalorian to ever be part of the Jedi Order. And that right there, guys, is Star Wars Mandalorian Season 1's recap. I hope you guys enjoyed it, because this was probably a lot more difficult than I thought it was, this recap. Recaps are usually tough, but I still go through them to help you guys out. But until then, everyone, I'm going to leave it all at that. And if you're enjoying my videos, all you got to do is click that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to be notified when I make more videos. And until then, MegaGeekMixer signing out. Bye!